All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We are here with Benjamin Hurd, Director of Engineering Services for
Morning.
STS Technical Group, a long time, an OG, if you will, DigiFabster customer, going back to 2018. And in our industry, that's a few lifetimes actually for most companies. So, well, great to have you, Benjamin. How are things going in Milwaukee, Wisconsin today?
Thank you. Real good. It's actually warm here today, so that's nice.
It's getting there. Yeah, gives you a little hope, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The birds are out. There's grass tips that look green.
Yep. Printers are running.
Look
Can't
at
ask for
that.
much more.
Impressive setup back there. Yeah. Well, good. So STS, long history. Really, if
Yeah.
I'm understanding correctly, starting as a design engineering services company. Is that correct? And you evolved. And what did that look like? What did that progression look like?
Yeah. So we've been a design and engineering firm for about 30 years or so, through a number of different companies that have bought out over the years. But in the last around 2018, we started getting into 3D printing because we saw requests for it. Just checking models for the automation industry and automotive and things of that nature when we do product development. People going, how's the fit and function, things like that. So we looked at um, getting into the lower end plastic printing. And then while the printer's idle, what can we do with it, sort of thing. And what we were running into was the quoting was just taking too much. So we ended up looking around, seeing what the options were, and we ended up with DigiFabster. And that's really helped us grow over the long term in that we weren't using engineers and designers who we have do most of our printing and DFAM and things of that nature. So we can continue to provide that engineered quality through our additive manufacturing. We didn't have them doing as much quoting and as much time doing it. It also allowed our clients to get instant quotes, which a lot of people like. People end up working weekends or late or nights or whatever. They're finishing a design and they want to know how much it's going to cost. They can just uh, check our website and get an instant quote for their stuff. We still review it, but they already have a ballpark idea of what it's going to be and things of that nature. And that helped us start growing because our clients who were already confident in our engineering work became confident in our additive work because it was consistent, it was reliable, it was fairly easy to navigate for them. They were able to see when we updated new materials, things like that would come right through on the website. And then we kept buying more printers every time we hit capacity. So I think
Yeah.
we went from one to, we have around 30 now. And we can do, initially we started out with just a composite printer. After we moved up from a low spot, just an entry level printer, we had a composite printer by Mark Forge. Um, we now have 23 composite printers by Mark Forge, but then we also got into Form Labs, which was fine because DigiFabster we can use FFF type quoting very easily, or we can do SLA. So we got into Form Labs as well, and we're able to quote that just as easily. And then the metal machine as well that we have. So we're printing in everything from composite to tool steels, copper, Inconel, things like that. And then we're also using all Formlabs resin suite. So you get your flexible and then your castable and then your high detail stuff. So we have a pretty good complement of materials we can use to supplement our engineering and design services. And then we do low run production for some people or things like that as needed for our clients. And we got into a little bit of scanning, supplement people. We're running into a couple clients with like their gears that break, they'd have no gear data, so we can reinterpret that. And the nice thing is with DigiFabster, we're able to, instead of going through the whole quoting process and invoicing and all the stuff that would be involved with a normal engineering project, getting all different departments involved from two separate companies. Sometimes, when the machine's down, you just don't have time for it. We're able to just add a line item for scanning, add a line item for design, and then we can kick out a quick project, real short turnaround. We use DigiFabster a lot for stuff like that because by the time you get accounting and accounts payable, receivable, everybody involved.
Yeah.
A 2-hour project just financially not viable,
Yeah.
but using DigiFabster and hey, pay with your credit card, we can get it turned around, we can get your gear fixed, we'll print a new one, get your machine up and running, and then it's not a hassle to do payment either. So, and on that they're paying ahead of time, so you're not trying to track down payment and things like that. So
Yeah.
it's really helped us grow short, small projects, which we were never really capable of doing. I mean, anything less than 40 hours previously was really almost a no quote because it was just so much work to get it up and running that it didn't make financial sense. So now we've been able to grow both our engineering services, but then expand our additive and then scanning, 3D scanning as well through that.
Yeah. So it sounds like you adopted, knew you needed a automated quoting solution. Like, what did your customer base drive that, or you just knew to gain efficiency to take in the kind of business you wanted to? What drove that need to move to DigiFabster and automated quoting solution in general?
Well, both and all of
Yeah.
that, right, Mike? So, I mean, what happened is, you have long-term clients who are going, "Hey, what's a price on this?"
Mm-hmm.
And they're sending you each individual model, and then you got to open it and look at it and translate it from SolidWorks to an STL, and it takes a half an hour
Yep.
for every file. It's a lot of futzing. And now, instead of waiting for us to get to that, okay, I got a break in work, I can stop and do that. Our clients can get quick, like I said, accurate quotes right away, and then they can play with quantities and all that stuff that they would be back and forth emails.
Yeah.
So their quality of service goes up somewhat. And then if they have questions, of course they can still reach out to my team just like they always have. But they're able to get a better service there. Now, outside of our recurring clients, people who aren't really familiar with us are able to look at it and see kind of what we do and things like that and find out, if it's within their budget, things of that nature, if it makes sense, or if they have questions again, there's a spot for them to reach out. And then like I was saying before, with clients that we would have really never even considered, even industrial clients with very short-term projects, we're able to start evangelizing our services into those companies because they're in a rush and they need help, and we're able to help them. And not a lot of engineering firms that are, not a startup or an individual that you're going to find on the internet are doing 1 or 2 hour engineering projects for, a regular rate. Yeah, we'll do a 1 hour project, but we have a minimum billing of whatever it is because you just have to cover the overhead costs. So we're able to offer that. Sometimes we do it through DigiFabster. Sometimes we've since we got DigiFabster started doing some. We changed our accounting system a little bit, so we're able to do some of it through there. But what DigiFabster allowed us to do is see that there is a easier way than kind of the old way of doing things, and just the way the internet is progressing and industry is progressing and the way e-commerce and everything else. It's not that if you don't offer the option, you're being left behind. That's not accurate. That would be an untrue statement. But people are used to a certain way of doing business now, and some people look for that ease of use, and others don't, or initially don't want to do something more challenging. Hey, we got to get W4 set up and set up a vendor and all that stuff. For DigiFabster, it's like, well, if you have a company card, just bang it through. And if they don't have a company card, you can still get a quote, you can get the project started, and then we can do the invoicing on our end afterwards. But at least the project's running, they got their quote, we have a build that we're going to be shipping, and all that stuff. So at least it's all documented and trackable, and if we need to go back and print it again, we can do that too. So
yeah, I agree, and that's kind of what we've. Well, that's why we're here, right? Like we've seen that progression, and we all know it in our personal life. And really, we feel that manufacturing, and specifically CNC and additive manufacturing, like was really trailing that needed different customer experience, right? That real time, it's goofy. I mean, up until there's
I mean, you got to look at it from the industry standpoint,
yeah
though, too, Mike. I mean, I can't just arbitrarily quote stuff. Neither can I don't do CNC
yeah
machining, but neither can they. Otherwise, you lose money
right
hand over fist. You're losing money, and you can't do that. So, I mean, that complicated quoting process was necessary. So where you can put in, hey, I have this volume, and I know it costs me this much markup on a material cost, and however you want to build in your costs, there's a couple different ways you can do that, depending on the material or the machine or whatever. It allows you to generate a quote that I can trust,
yeah
and that my clients can get. And generally, unless obviously 3D printing, and I'm sure CNC machining, certain processes are a little harder to quote. When you get into certain types of infill for 3D printing, wall thicknesses, things like that, or strength requirements, sometimes we have to up over what the quote would be, just because you can't put every option in. There's infinite options, so I can't put every option in for the clients, but I can put in some basic ones, and sometimes they choose the wrong one for what they want, and we're very consultative in that way. But I mean, there's a reason everybody did things for a long time that way, because you had to. Otherwise, you'd lose money, but it would be fast. So I guess at least you'd go out of business quickly.
yeah
Now you can at least get quotes in that everybody's fairly confident in, and it's more profitable for everybody, and clients are more trustworthy of you, because you're not going one time on this part. It's a, I don't know, 4x markup over material or whatever. And then the next time a different guy looks at it, he's like, oh my gosh, that looks hard, because he's not as familiar with the process or whatever. Marks it up 6 times, and then the client's going, well, I don't, what the heck are they even doing over there, because, it's who's available sometimes to quote it. One guy might be more familiar with one type of machinery or a machine or tooling or whatever we're doing as part of the process, support removal. And another guy might be really familiar with DFAM, and he's getting, hold of a client going, this is a $300 part. If we change a couple pieces on here, some chamfers, some things like that, it's going to print without support, and drops it down to a $100 part. Do you want that? And sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. It's got to be this way. Okay,
yeah
well, that's the price. So it's variant,
yeah
and it kind of has to be that way sometimes. So these automated quoting systems like DigiFabster really kind of allow you to do business, because if you're spending hours and hours quoting every project at an engineering or designer's rate, who is really who you have to have looking at them, it's hard to even be profitable.
yeah
Once you amortize in the machines, cost materials, things like that, um,
Yeah,
it
I
wouldn't
I
make
th-
financial sense.
I think it's a general trend, like not only in the manufacturing industry but in general. So I mean, we all try to automate some routine, right? And especially when the human hours is expensive, much like in the US, right? So you actually need to spend more time thinking about how can I automate some routine stuff? How can I automate something that, you know, just people don't need to touch, like don't need to spend time with the spreadsheets, don't need to spend time with some writing scripts or something like that. So it just has to be automated because, again, the time is money, of course. And especially now because we get to the point where we have technologies like DigiFabster, we can think about, of course, like trendy things like ChatGPT and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's obvious that those things moving forward will help a lot, just on automation front, just on a cost reduction front. At the end of the day, so yeah, I think it's just general trend, and that's really important for the companies to just adopt those tools and well do it as fast as possible. I would say so.
yeah and I really like your point on the credibility piece, right? Going back out to your customer, builds so much credibility and that consistency, and really I'm going to say appear because it's true, but you appear to have your crap together, right? In the sense of you're consistent. They're getting the same thing with the same level of service, meaning they get a quote back and almost instantaneously versus someone picking a dart out of their desk and guessing on the price that day, right? I mean, I understand that a lot of companies don't operate that way, but it's a lot of it is manual and depends on a lot of the factors you just mentioned for that particular day or whatever, and the customer shouldn't necessarily feel that, right? So, yeah.
Well, and you end up with other things too, where you're providing some kind of discount to some
Yeah.
specific client because of whatever was arranged at some point in time, and then the world's not that big. Somebody moves between companies and they go, well, why are you paying twice what you guys were at the last place? And oh well, we worked out some deal. I don't. It's a lot easier for me to just be honest with everybody. Well, this is what it costs for me to do business. I'm going to mark yours up what I am everybody else, and we'll be fair with you if you're fair with us, and just deal with people honestly. And I will say this is one thing that helps me do that,
Yeah.
because you're not coming up with, well, gosh, I really don't like Constantine. I'm going to try to jam him up a lot.
Yeah.
Get him for a lot of money because that guy doesn't know what he's doing.
They'll pay it anyway.
And then
right?
Mike, he's going to rake me over the coals, so I gotta be competitive with him. I'm just going, well, hey guys, here's my price, and it's honest and it's straightforward and it's easy.
Yeah.
You don't have to try to manage all that, right?
Exactly.
You're just going, well, I don't know what's my markup. Oh, materials went up. Let me adjust my prices.
Yep.
Well, how come the price is different than I got a quote for 90 days ago? Well, 60 days ago, I raised the prices to everyone, not you, everyone.
Yeah, for this specific element, right, or whatever. Yeah. So
whatever.
You mentioned new business. So what is that in rough? Obviously, if you don't have it right at the tip of your tongue, but like, what does that breakout look like of customers that either do a search of some kind, somehow get to your website and place an order? What how much new business do you feel you gain from having e-commerce available and having the process in place and the experience in place that you do?
I mean, we get quite a bit of reoccurring business,
Yeah.
especially with the coupling of the engineering services with the additive manufacturing.
Okay.
Right? That dovetails very well together, and there's a lot of back and forth. Hey, design something, 3D print it. We're doing some end tooling for some automation. Can you 3D print that? Okay. You're back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But then you get, on a site like DigiFabster or other things we use, I don't know, I'd say, probably 20% are non-reoccurring clients where I don't know who this
Great.
guy is.
Yeah.
He wants 300 parts, so I'm
works.
really happy to do business with him, and hope we do well, and he becomes part of that 80%, right?
Yep.
That's what you want. You want to convert people to. I mean, we really try to partner with people for the long term, because especially with our engineering services, and additive is not much different from how we do business standpoint. It takes a long time to learn engineering standards, templates, what people want out of their models, their drawings, things like that. Additive is very similar in that it takes not a long time, but it takes conversations and learning to understand what people are looking to get out of their models. One company wants just bulletproof, this should never fail type models. We're doing very high infill. We're putting carbon fiber reinforcement in it. We're doing all this stuff, right? Another company is going, hey, I really need these to be as cheap as possible. What can you do to get the cost down? And we're making it kind of the opposite, right? And yeah, it would never be able to be used in this other guy's factory, but it's exactly what this other client wants, and we know that. And that just takes learning, because companies, we will have people that'll say, okay, I want 100% infill. That's what makes a strong part. And well, that actually increases the chance of delamination, because you're not having good heat.
It won't shed heat.
Dissipation into the previous layer, so they're not bonding as well as they could. Hey man, if you drop that down to 95, which would almost, it's actually going to be stronger, right? But what are you really looking for? And then we have a totally different conversation as an aside. But we at least have that consultation. And often we know that, okay, this guy's asking for 100%. He probably needs a follow-up call, right? And that's how we end up converting a lot of people to long-term clients, because, we're providing that consultation, or if the name is something really obvious, like electrical insulator or something like that. We might call them up and be like, hey, we do have ESD material. You didn't select it. Um, do you want ESD? That might help you out better. So it's just so dependent, client to client, part to part, on everything.
So do you oversight every order? And I think that's a lot of concern with what people have. We sometimes have difficulty conveying to prospective customers, prospective clients, like, I don't want to lose control of where I would never do e-commerce because I'll lose control of that kind of oversight, or that customer relationship building piece that you're talking about, right? Like, what is the balance, if you will, of, automation versus human oversight like that? What does that look like for you guys?
So if you had uploaded a part, Mike, I still have to, so it's in, you got a price, and I'm looking at it, and I go, okay, he wants, I don't know, 37% infill.
Mm-hmm.
He wants onyx material. Okay, so I know it's already going to be in the Eiger slicer from our forge. I know you're just choosing standard settings, so I'm gonna upload it. I'm gonna look at the part, and I'm gonna go, okay, this is probably the side he wants down. That's gonna be on the bed, and I'm slicing it into the program. So I have to interact with it just to get it onto the printer. Now the quoting's done, but I might be looking at it and going, he's got this weird little something sticking out here. We look at a ton of CAD parts for engineering. We look at even more random parts for additive. You kind of know after a while what a part's supposed to look like. So I'm going to look at it and go, gosh, that just doesn't look like right, or that's not translating well. They might have uploaded a bad STL or something of that nature. And so we're looking at it and going, I'm not automatically hitting print, right? I could. It would be faster. Then I ship you your part, and I go, hey, man, that's the part you uploaded. Tough. Here's the problem, though. You're probably not coming back to me. We might get in some kind of quasi-dispute. Now I'm reprinting the part, and I have to cover shipping again, and I have to do all this other stuff. So it really doesn't behoove me to just fly through the process. What makes the most sense for me is to do a cursory review of each part and go, okay, that makes sense, that doesn't. Somehow they snuck this into a metal part. I don't even know how they did that, but that doesn't fit on our machine. Why? What did they do? Gosh, the units really don't look right on this. Maybe they selected the wrong unit, something like that. Like, there's no way this is that small. Because I've run into that on some software, where people, they're all proud of the part. You're like, wow, I printed this really cool detailed part. They're like, well, that should be in inches, not metric.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what you want me to do. I can't print it. It's way too big. 20, 25 times sure. I was pretty proud of that. And then, now I don't know what to tell you. That's what you asked for. So sometimes it's just hard to tell because you don't know if somebody's making a vessel, right? Or a vessel for miniature model, right? Because people use additive for both. And sometimes it's going to require a phone call just to confirm, like, hey, is this a bowl for fruit? Or is this something that's going to go on a table in a model for an architectural detail or something like that?
Yeah, non-functional.
So you got to check that stuff, just because you do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And it sounds like that's probably something that really sets you apart from, a couple guys in their garage, right? Is you're not just printing parts based on whatever the heck they send you. You put a lot of thought and real engineering stuff, right, into looking at if this thing's going to do what they really want it to do.
Yeah, we try. I mean, I had all these in my garage over COVID, but
oh, really?
As soon as I could get them back here, I did.
Oh, my. That's awesome. That's thinking. That's really working from home, right? That's great.
Yeah, well, they shut the state down, and if you recall, not everybody knew what was going to happen, how stringent those shutdowns were going to be, and we had a 3-month backlog at the time, and we really didn't want to just shut it off, tell our clients we're sorry. So got real familiar with the UPS guy who kept bringing me large boxes of filament.
Nice. Yeah. I bet. Waiting for him each day, right? Yeah.
I think that time generated a lot of interesting stories across
Oh man.
industry in general as people tried to create stopgap measures to keep clients happy.
Yeah.
Hmm.
They tried to shut a lot of stuff down, but industry really
No.
couldn't just stop. You can't shut everything down without tanking the entire economy.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, as hard as that time was for us, and I do think that some things it really hurt and set us back, but I think there were a lot of great lessons learned in talking about efficiency and different ways to collaborate, right? And different ways we all interact with each
Exactly.
other. Some good, some bad, but I think it changed us forever, right? As far as how a lot of that stuff happens. So in a lot of positive
Oh
ways.
yeah, I mean we did some really neat work during that
Yeah.
time. You know, people showing up at my house instead of the office and things like that. But
Yeah.
what are you going to do, right? Um,
Right.
it's kind of funny because I have a multinational engineering team, and I ended up running it out of my house. It was bizarre,
That's wild.
right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't normally put those things together, but at the other side of it, you go, I got clients that I have a responsibility to and expect a certain level of service, and if we're going to only base this out of the office and I can't have anybody going to the office, then we're going to have to say no, which really isn't fair to anybody. So
Yeah.
we ended up making it work, and now we're back in the office. We're running at a higher capacity than we ever were during that time, but we were able to hit the ground running because we didn't stop. And one thing that helped us keep doing that was DigiFabster, because we weren't in the office, but I could have guys look at it remotely. Our printers you can start remotely. You can do a lot of stuff remotely nowadays. So,
Yeah.
right now I have one of the main guys that monitors DigiFabster is down in Monterey, as part of my team down in Mexico.
Mhm.
So he looks at it. He'll again slice the parts, load them in, start them printing, and it's seamless. It's as if he worked here because he's part of my team, and it really doesn't matter if he's here now. The printer jams or something like that, obviously we're addressing it. But
Yeah.
assuming everything's working the way it should, once he's done, we can just go and scrape parts off the bed, and they're ready to ship. So it's exciting, and that automation again allows for that consistency, that easy train up of people, because you're not training them on how to do everything. You're training them on how to, hey, put this in the slicer, double check to make sure the markup's right. And then if you have any questions, ask somebody who's been doing it for a long time, and they're going to be able to bring you up to speed real fast. But again, not every part upon review requires a lot of questions. Some of them do. Some of them look like good parts that are great for the process. More and more engineers nowadays are familiar with DFAM, and you get a part in that looks great. You can tell exactly which way it's supposed to be printed, and that's going to kick off flawlessly. Because it's starting to have been around for a while, and it's really, I think, additive is not the solution for everything. I'll be the first to tell you that, but it's hitting its stride in some areas really well, and now that people are starting to design for it instead of trying to shoehorn things made for other processes into it, it's a lot better, right? You can't take an injection molded part and forge it. It's also difficult to take an injection molded part and 3D print it, for example. So, as we move away from people going, well, we have this test part, we're going to test this new process with it. This is the part we use for all testing. Some of those buyers I have a very difficult conversation with, because I almost don't want to print it because I know it's going to fail. Just looking at it. Nope, that's the test part. That's what we use for our checking of does this process work? And you're going, well, it's going to fail without some redesign. So as industry changes, a lot of this becomes easier, and systems like this that are more automated allow that, right? Because a buyer can be more confident in it. They're not just throwing something over the wall like they used to and going, well, I have this 2D drawing. We'll see what I get back on it. Now you're taking your part, your 3D part, and you have actual control over it because you're uploading that file, and I'm not changing it really. I'm choosing how it's sliced, but I'm not able to choose what hole size. I'm not able to choose what threads are in it. I'm not able to choose any features of it. I'm just hitting print. So assuming the printer's working the way it should, you get what you ordered every time, um, which is nice.
Yeah.
You know,
So, do you believe that there's the more customers now that actually spend a lot of time on preparation of the CAD file before they send it to, service bureau to print it? So it's
we're,
more designed for manufacturing check that happened before than it been in the
we're
past?
yeah, we're seeing it more and more. Just to be
Okay.
honest, we counsel a lot of our clients on how to do it, so they don't have to come to us every time. A lot of times if people are in a real hurry, they turn to additive for the first time because, oh my gosh, my supplier that I normally get this from, you know, they had all the material on a rail car and it crashed, and now we're up against a wall. Let's try additive. I heard that's some kind of magic thing I can throw stuff at and it comes out on the other side. And normally then they'll pay for our engineering services to DFAM, design for additive manufacturing, the part, and we'll go from there. But people that are in less of a hurry and are going, we don't have a lot of high run production stuff. Our EAU is low on these parts, or they're very complicated and they don't lend themselves to traditional manufacturing well. Can you help us do this better? And we'll, yep, this one's terrible. Here's what we would change just verbally over the phone. Then the next one, it's like, well, okay, print out a picture, change these fillets to chamfers or square corners to fillets or whatever it may be. And they get better. And then you start getting parts where you don't have to counsel them as much.
Mm-hmm.
Come in, oh, we got a quote from that client, Constantine sending us the part again. Clearly they've been listening. It fits on the machine. It's orientated properly. Has all the good DFAM features. They're not trying to thin material out. They're allowing us to do it with infill, things of that nature that are more advantageous for additive manufacturing. And then we go, okay, well, the more we do that, the more we counsel people, the more every time I get a part from Constantine, I look at it less and less and less and less. And then it becomes that kind of, it's from Constantine, just print it.
Yeah.
We're not going to be worried about it. He knows the capabilities of our machines, the capabilities of our techs, our engineering department, and he knows what he's getting, and he's designed for that. And we'll counsel him up till there. And you're seeing more and more of that where people have clearly learned how to do it and are doing it, or are asking to learn how to do it, because they're starting to realize that if you want to be successful with a new manufacturing process, you need to design for the new manufacturing process instead of taking a part that, well, we always had this die cast because it needed to be kind of strong, and you can print it out of composite now, but they're not just uploading the die cast part and going, well, not only do we need it shaped exactly like this die cast part, we need it made out of this one version of zinc because that's what we qualified. And if you can't print it with super thin ribs out of zinc, we don't want it. Which I've seen in the past. And I'm going, well, I'm assuming you have space around this part, just given where the ribs are and stuff. You could make this more solid and it would be a very good additive part. But, buyers or whatever are going, this is what engineering gave me. This is how it has to be. Can I speak to engineering? No, you don't need to deal with them. Well, then I can't make it the way you're requiring, So I think as that mindset changes, you're often getting parts that have alternatives, right? This could be zinc die cast or, under 200 EAU, we 3D print them. And then we use this model that is slightly different, and it prints really well. And then we get those in, and they print really well, or need a couple small tweaks. Hey, we noticed you're doing 300 or 400 of these. Can we put a chamfer on the bottom so that we can scrape them off the bed without marring them a little easier, or something like that, just something small. And normally the engineers at that point are going, oh, yeah, all you need is a chamfer. We can add a chamfer. It's not a big deal. Because you're not asking for a whole redesign at that point. You're just asking for a small feature change. And things like chamfers or adding fillets to the bottoms of bosses so that they don't snap off as easy and additive because it's a layer type thing, like plywood. Um, if you have thin features along the grain of the plywood, they snap off easy. So if you transition well, and as people learn that, you get those features in right away. So you're tweaking instead of asking for a full redesign. Um, they're more successful, right? And there's fewer iterations on their end. It's nice to see because as that comes through, um, people like us that are all evangelizing and working with it that know like this is a great process. Not for everything, but for some things it works really well. It's nice to see that because all the hard work you put into building up a company and working with people and making stuff work, it's coming to fruition, right?
Yeah.
It always feels
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, I think it's a very natural process, and it's actually a great way to basically you educate people through consultation, through work, and then you, at the end of the day, getting loyal customers, you getting people that educated so they can actually be more efficient when they're ordering something or when do. I mean, it's overall the best way to basically develop the industry or just basically just how industry involved. And I think it's a very natural process. It's not only related to manufacturing itself and engineering, it's also related to, let's say, marketing and stuff like that. We are seeing a lot, like we educating people on the marketing front, in manufacturing really a lot, and that's paying off at some point, of course, because people now, okay, so that's essential part of my business, I just have to do that. That's important. So they just understanding the importance of those things and just then implementing those things into into daily life, into their businesses. So yeah, I think it's basically the great way to just working with the customers. Yeah,
Yeah, and
that's
that's an
awesome.
interesting point. Gosh, it sounds like this thing has, um, DigiFabster and automated quoting has really took off for you guys. What advice would you have for companies that are just getting started with DigiFabster on the adoption piece? I mean, that's what Constantine talked about. A lot of people, know they need automated quoting, but that next step of marketing the tool, to their customers and out to the market, like what tips would you have for them? Obviously, without giving away all the secrets here, what tips would you
Don't go
have
with
for them for
DigiFabster would be
adoption?
my best advice to companies very similar to me, um, in that I don't want them to be competitors.
Yeah,
No, in all seriousness, though, work with your vendors. I
yeah,
mean, like I said earlier, with our clients and our vendors, we try to partner very closely with them. Now, it's going to be easier to work with DigiFabster than when we started. It was very much in its infancy then, and we worked with them to develop a lot of features that we use now um, successfully. One thing I will say about DigiFabster is if you need those additional features, work with them
yeah,
because they're not going to arbitrarily develop features just wondering if people might maybe want them. They're going to take the feedback of the industry and put it in. Um, you know, I joke saying don't work with them because I don't want another competitor.
right.
But in all truth, if you don't work with them, and you're planning to do business with them, I don't know how you would expect them to develop software that works well for you and for other people in your industry. I mean, at the end of the day, additive manufacturing and even digitally quoting, CNC machining, things of that nature are in their infancy.
Yeah,
And, a rising tide is going to raise all ships. If we don't all work together, um, it'll get there. It's just going to take longer. So the question is, do you want it to get easier sooner or do you want it to get easier later? Um, I only have so much time in my day, and the sooner things can get easier, the happier I always am. So I like to have some vague inclination of work-life balance, right?
yeah,
I think we were talking before this started about how when you're in business, sometimes you end up working a lot to get things up and running, and having that automation and the ability to know that something's getting done in the background consistently the same way every time, and if it's not working, that you need to adjust something specific to get it working, and it's not some arbitrary um, we don't know what is nice, because okay, well, these quotes come out wrong every time. They're terrible every single time. The price is low. Well, that's something very easy to
Yeah.
adjust. I can go in and I can adjust my pricing up
Right.
so that they're not terrible and off for my process every time. Um, or if I'm getting feedback from my clients, like, these things are insane. What are you doing? Um, oh, geez, I copied a profile wrong, and I got the wrong multiplier in there. You know, that's easy to adjust, and then it's good every time, because once it's adjusted, it's a machine. They're not smart, um, but they do a task once you tell them to, easily and repeatably. Um, so I mean, that's the nice thing. It really doesn't make mistakes, um, as long as you tell it what to do.
Yeah, taking the human element out of it sometimes is a good thing, right? The human emotion.
Yeah, but like we have a metal printer, and like a big part of that metal printer is the sinter oven. We have to sinter all the parts. We worked with, oh gosh, Constant, how months to get that straightened out so that we could get our pricing right, because it
Yep.
could never come in. We couldn't price our parts just based on volume and a number of other issues in pricing metal parts that have a secondary processing, or anything with a secondary processing. We worked with them for a while to get that priced in, and without a vendor that's willing to work with you, kind of like I was saying with our consultation, STS does with our clients for additive manufacturing. Um, Vendors like this are important to work with just as much to get what you need to automate your stuff. Because otherwise, if you get 80% of a process done every time, you're still going and doing it every time. You're touching every part a lot, and I can't have that. What I need is, okay, I've reviewed it. Now they can pay. All right, they paid. Now I can start printing, and then they can see on their end, okay, I'm done printing. Looks like you shipped the part. Here's my tracking.
Yeah.
Like that's good. Um, but if you don't work through all that stuff, then it won't be there. So I would say, if somebody's looking to work with DigiFabster, or even somebody similar to them, make sure that they can do what you want. If they can't, talk to them and see if they can actually develop it successfully, and what that roadmap looks like. Because they might say, well, we can probably do it in, by next September. Well, if you're talking a 10-month lead time on something that maybe inherently doesn't seem that hard, that vendor may not actually be able to help you. And I would suggest looking for one that can, because generally, if they know how to code what you're looking for, and it's not completely new development in the industry, they're going to be able to turn it around pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And there's nobody better from our standpoint than to feed that stuff for us than people like you with boots on the ground, right? And you're the guys that are out there trying to make it happen every day. So it's helpful.
Well, yeah, I mean, people like me know what we want.
Yeah.
No offense, Constantine, you don't know what I need. Well, because
Right.
you don't do this every
Exactly.
day, right? You
No,
do
it's true.
something different. But I can tell you, and then you know what I need.
That's right.
And that helps both of us.
Yeah.
It's all about partnership every time. Yep.
So, what's next for STS? What do you feel is your next big rock? Not to get too cliche here, but yeah, what's next for you guys?
I don't know.
Yeah.
We've been doing a lot of sales lately. We're looking to expand. So we already do work with a lot of different companies. Everything from medical to firearms to automotive, trains, trucks, lawnmowers, municipal, uh, clarifiers, things like that. Just really a little bit of everything is what we touch on. And then we do everything from product development, white paper type design, all the way through, just drawing creation and things of that nature. Same with additive. That's all grown organically. Next steps might be a different process in additive.
Yeah.
We're also our Mexico group does a lot of design build. We're moving more into that. Our additives based mostly out of the Brookfield office in the U.S. Um, Mexico is starting to get 3D printers. We're starting to do design builds. We're really starting to blend our services more to mirror each other, which may not sound exciting to everybody, but
Yeah.
it is for us.
Yeah.
We just kicked our first design build out the door here in Milwaukee, and Mexico just did their first bulk 3D print down there. So it's nice to start seeing the two groups mirror each other more. They're more mechatronics down there, which is a really neat degree. We're able to hire a blending of mechanical, electrical abilities. We leverage them quite a bit. We do more product development and automation, I think, than they do, but they do more builds of automation than we do. So it's nice seeing that starting to come together in a more fluid group. I will say we kind of touched on things COVID did earlier. One thing that I noticed that really kicked into high gear was video conferencing, like we're doing right now, in collaboration.
Yeah.
It was, I think, a lot less common going into COVID. Now I don't even think twice about hitting a button and talking to my team in Monterey. And what that's done is allowed us to just utilize skill sets as they're available globally much more effectively. So a mechatronics engineer is super hard to find in the U.S. There's only a few schools offering it. There's a really good school for it down in Monterey, though, so I'm able to hire those guys very easily down there.
Yeah.
And leverage that. And we're starting to do that with additive too. And DigiFabster is allowing us to do that. So additive manufacturing is not very popular yet in Mexico, and we're looking to branch out to that. There's very few, if any. We're having difficulty even locating what a competitor would look like as an additive service bureau in not Monterey, but all of Mexico.
Yep.
It's just in the developing world. It's not there yet. So, and that's another thing, the internet allows for easy translation and things like that. So somebody can go on our website on DigiFabster and, see it in their native language a lot easier than me having to go evangelize everybody in the entire country. It's just there. So if they're looking for it, we have a branch in Mexico, and we're able to start branching out to that. So that's very exciting for me, in that, we can be one of the early implementers of a technology in a country, or maybe even a region, I guess you could say, in regards to Latin America. To me, that's very exciting.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah.
Personally.
No, I agree, and that's obviously we try to be in tune with that stuff as much as possible. We're a global company, right? And we always have to make that decision of where to go next and what factors are driving us there and what factors prevent us from going there. So yeah, that's really good thoughts. And it sounds like, and that's where it starts, right? Is in the education level. If they're churning out people that get the technology and they have the labor base to make it all happen, that'll make it happen quickly.
Well, I mean, you got to understand that I'm sympathetic to it not fully being in a lot of these emerging markets yet because labor's so cheap. So you go, well, it costs nickels to have something machined because the labor to machine them and the machines are often, maybe bought secondhand or something like that. So they don't have the huge capital investment. And, those guys that turn cranks on those older machines, I've seen them do it. Yeah. They're incredibly accurate. They know their machine. They're in it. They know the in and outs of that machine. So they're able to do what I can't do with a 3D printer on a hand crank CNC machine, or I guess it's not CNC at that point, but a hand crank milling machine, cheaper. And it's hard to be competitive with that. But what additive does allow is sharing of digital data across borders very easily, right? Mm-hmm. So I can print a part here and for an original OEM machine. If it breaks and it's in the field in Monterey, instead of paying $70 or $100 to ship it over a border, they can print it down there and save all that money. And it's a simple replacement part. And that's one thing I found will probably happen just because of the nature of it. It's a lot cheaper to print things for clients we share across the border in Mexico, just because of the international shipping costs. Getting it over the border, getting it through customs is very expensive. And we talk to clients all the time who are international companies who want to utilize things like that. They're going, well, we can have a digital file of replacement parts and tell them to ship it at, or print it at their local service bureau. One, they get it way faster.
Yeah.
Let's say a part breaks in Nepal. It takes a long time to get it there from, I don't know, Missouri or something, right? Somewhere in the central U.S. And it's going to be very expensive. And that machine's down. Where they, oh yeah, our service department will send you the digital file. Here you go. Have it printed, man. Go nuts. And their machine's up and running. Well, that's great customer service, right? And some of that allows companies like us that work across borders to do that more easily. Especially as companies similar to DigiFabster, I don't know if you guys are doing it, I apologize, are allowing for digital databases for companies where they're able to hold their IP and just outsource it to people like us. Starting to see more of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it'll be very powerful from a global IP standpoint.
Yeah. Well, good. I think we got to let you get to your meeting here at the top of the hour. So it's been a pleasure.
We all have so many meetings these days.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It is. Yeah. Well, at least some of them are remote, right? We don't have to fly around the world and country as much. So that's good.
Right. Well, I appreciate all the help you've been in the past, guys, while I got you.
Yeah.
And pleasure talking to you.
Pleasure as well.
Same.
So
Thank you so much.
It's Benjamin Hurd with STS Technical Group, and then you can find them at STS-TS.com. Thank you so much,
Thank you, gentlemen.
Benjamin. Take care.
Have a good day.
All right.
Thanks, Ben. Thank you so much.